Howdy folks, Doc here with Last Best Tool, and I've got about a 3-month review here on the Frizzlife LP365 Smart Water Monitor and Shutoff. Now this is a piece of property I've got up in the mountains, and I'm always a little skeptical of the plumbing, not just because I did a bunch of it myself, but it's a lot of old stuff. It's been cobbled together over the years, and one of the concerns I have is, well, I'm away from it a lot, and I don't want the thing to flood, or I don't want the pump to get stuck on because a pipe burst or something like that. So Frizzlife actually contacted me at exactly the same time I was considering buying one of these things. And they sent me this, the LP365. There is also an LP365P, which has a pressure sensor as well. And as a smart water monitor, what this thing actually can do is make decisions on its own based on the settings. So although I can document, its performance on an app, as well as measure other things and change the settings. Once those settings are there, it can decide, if there's a leak, if too much flow is happening. I can shut it off remotely too. So that's something that I really wanted to be able to do. And I can also measure the temperature of the water in the pipe, which to me is critical because, in the cold season, winter, which is when I put this thing in, I needed to know if the pipes were going to be close to freezing. So I've got the coupling for it that came with it, plus I've got some PEX SharkBite adapters there because that's what I'm going to be using. I think I've got an idea of where this is going to go. But anyway, it's got an inlet and an outlet, and I'm just going to screw in those brass coupled SharkBite PEX adapters on both sides. And then I've got to figure out exactly where I'm going to put this. And the instructions are quite helpful in terms of figuring out the best install. And that's through, the pressure in the pipes, the direction of the pipes, things like that. So I started digging through the instruction manual, and I'm getting a little restless. It's also cold down here. The water isn't as cold, but the area is. So I'm looking at this, and now I figured out, okay, it's going to go, I don't know, right in here somewhere. Now I've got 2 Culligan home water filters on there. I didn't build a bypass. I probably will need to. You can see in the the suggested installation here, is that or can be in a vertical position. And in this case, the water needs to be going up. And if the water is going up, then bubbles won't get caught in the mechanism and, potentially throw off the settings. Now, being a tool channel, you might see, some tools in use. What I've got right now that I'm carrying, if you're interested, is my Vito Tech MC bag. And I think that's the MCT bag. That's what this is a taller one, filled out with stuff. Anyway, let's get to it. So this is the pipe. It's coming in from the ground, and I'm going to install the Frizzlife right about there, kind of in the middle. It's going to go through the 2 filters, and into the pressure tank, and then into the hot water tank, and then around. So what I need to do is measure and cut that right there, and I've got kind of one shot at it. Otherwise, I'm going to have to redo this. And yes, that's water on the floor. Water seeps into this foundation, and I've got heat tape on it to try to keep it warm because the snow's falling outside, and it can get really cold in this location. So there it is. Now there is an app. And the app is how you can control it and program it, or of course you can do it with the buttons. Just seeing if there's anything else I need to know before I cut into this thing and start installing it. No bypass this time. I've got the directions set up right, and then it goes to the app. So what I'm going to do is cut the line and put this thing in so I can test it out. Here's kind of just showing you some things. The empty pipe temperature is 70 degrees right there. That's kind of interesting. And that is a glorious feature. I'll talk about that in just a minute. But having the ability to see what the water temperature is It's amazing. This is what it looks like, the app, and I can do several things here. The first is that I can actually look at well, the temperature, but I can look at any flow rate. It gives me some indications. I can turn on an immediate protection. I can shut the valve off. Right now it's on. You can see that green slider. If that is on, water can go right through this thing. If I have a protection, which could be a flow rate, in other words, it can have leak detection. What'll happen is it'll shut off if it goes over a certain flow rate, or in essence, sensing a leak. I can see what the water usage is. And that can be several things. It could be how much per day, how much per week, what the flow rate is. So that's kind of nice. And of course, I've always got the protection ability right up there, and the ability to, if I just click that green slider, it shuts off the flow of the water. It clamps it down. So if I ever notice something wrong, even 1,000 miles away, I can shut off the water. Now, going to the temperature there, what's really critical about the temperature is, I can quickly check it. I can, go on and think, oh no, it's, 10 below up where the place is. So I need to check and make sure that the temperature of the water isn't anywhere near freezing. So here's an example. It's 51.4 degrees. That's kind of toasty for that area. Usually it's in the 40s. If it gets any lower than that, I've got to make a decision. Now, I don't know what'll happen if the pipes froze with this thing, but hopefully the wrap will still work. But again, the heat wrap only works when there's electricity. That's another thing with this. Is if I have no electricity, well, then this thing, it has onboard battery, which means it'll still do the flow monitoring and can still turn off automatically as long as there's life in the battery there. So that's good. Otherwise, it's got a USB-C charger plugged into it. You can see a few of the different settings there. So that temperature to me was critical. But there's another thing that can happen, and that's I'm constantly losing power in this area. In fact, a tree just fell down the road and took out a power pole. There's a small line running into this place, so I do have electricity here. And what happens then is I get an alert sent to my phone saying that the Wi-Fi has lost contact with this. And of course, that's because the Wi-Fi is dead too. But that's the alert that pops up when you get when you lose power. But what happens then is I could check the weather and see if there's something going on, or just trust that the settings will take over. Just I don't know it. It's like your phone doesn't work, but the world still goes just fine without you. But anyway, so that's the install. It seems good. At first, I had to work on it so it didn't leak, and that was my fault. I had one shot with that line before I have a bigger mess. Here are some of the options you can see going through the different settings. And then, if you want to really dive deep into all of the possibilities here, I can run a leak test too. And when I run this, like this, in other words, if I shut off all the water, suddenly then you don't see any flow. But if there is flow, that's a leak. No leak detected. So there it is. That's the Frizzlife LP365 temperature and flow rate smart water monitor and shutoff. Let me know your thoughts. And with that, Doc out.